Well, if she's over 30, you don't even have to worry about Leo.
Joe Rogan isn't known for holding back. He's built his platform on speaking bluntly, exposing what others are too afraid to touch, and calling out Hollywood's elite when things don't sit right. But even longtime listeners were stunned when Rogan turned his attention to a pair of names that rarely get questioned together: Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Diddy Combs. It wasn't just about celebrity connections or glitzy events. It was about patterns, timelines, and a string of uncomfortable coincidences that paint a very strange picture.
Probably not public information yet, but who's the person that's number one on that invitation list?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
During a recent podcast, Rogan started asking what everyone else seemed too cautious to bring up. Why was Leonardo DiCaprio, a teenager at the time, regularly appearing at private events hosted by Diddy? These weren't just random gatherings. These were exclusive parties full of powerful industry figures where access was tightly controlled. And yet there was Leo repeatedly showing up in rooms full of high-level adults long before most young actors would even get a seat at the table. Leonardo DiCaprio's rise to fame was meteoric. By the mid-1990s, he had already starred in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, The Basketball Diaries, and Romeo plus Juliet. He was becoming the face of young Hollywood. At the same time, Diddy was turning Bad Boy Records into a cultural force, elevating artists like Notorious B.I.G. and dominating hip-hop radio. These two individuals came from completely different worlds. One from the film scene and the other from music, but somehow their worlds collided, and not just once or twice.
It's Leo. You're like, damn it.
God damn it.
Leo struck again.
Well, if she's over 30, you don't even have to worry about Leo.
Not over like 23.
Yeah.
30. 30
That's
is
like
like
when I
over
saw-
the hill.
Remember the photos of Jeff Bezos and his girlfriend,
Would she
Leonardo
like the
DiCaprio? Yeah, she was like smiling at him, and then Jeff Bezos like was joking around about pushing him off a cliff. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, you don't have to worry about her, bro. She's 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could see her doing like the cost benefit analysis.
Rogan's deep dive didn't rely on rumors. It was built on real footage, archived photos, and insider accounts that had been forgotten or ignored for decades. He brought up specific images of DiCaprio seated beside Diddy in low-lit rooms with other entertainment moguls. These weren't movie premieres or red carpet appearances. These were personal spaces, often private and seemingly off limits to young up-and-comers. So why was Leonardo there? Why did no one question his presence? That question opened a floodgate of observations. Joe recalled interviews with Leo from the mid-90s where he seemed vibrant and full of life. But when asked about his mentors or connections in the industry, his tone would suddenly shift. In one particular clip, when a reporter asked about his inner circle, Leonardo paused. He mumbled, looked away, and quickly changed the subject. Back then, it didn't seem like much. But now, that moment feels like a flashing warning sign.
P. Diddy party. This is what happens to the white man.
It's so unfortunate.
You gotta pull back though, so they can see. That's crazy. Matt, move out the way. You're still alive. Look at that. Look. Would you?
Look at the drink on his head.
And that's James from Simeon Mobile Disco. He is a actual DJs aren't supposed to pass out, but when they come to one of my parties, this is what happens to them.
It's not just that Leonardo was at these events, it's the timing. As Rogan pointed out, every time a young male star started to catch fire in Hollywood, Diddy wasn't far behind. Whether it was Justin Bieber, Aaron Carter, or even Leonardo, the story kept repeating. First comes fame, then comes access to high-profile circles, and standing in the middle of it all is Diddy, always with a smile, always offering opportunity, but at what cost? Joe didn't mince words. He said plainly that the entertainment industry has a long-standing problem with gatekeepers, powerful individuals who promise success in exchange for loyalty and silence. Diddy, in Rogan's view, became one of those figures, a man who held the keys to rooms everyone wanted to be in, while quietly shaping the careers of those who got close to him. And Leonardo, whether by choice or circumstance, was part of that web.
I got my MTV out.
Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get!
Whatever I want, I have to get.
Everybody hung with Diddy. That's the other tricky thing. Like, Diddy hung out with everybody. And I've spoken to a bunch of people who are like, yo, great dude, like, always there for you, never asked for a single thing.
Till 1 a.m.
And then freak off.
Everybody says, get out of the house. It's just amazing how many people in the Diddy party list that are supporting Kamala. Too.
Yeah, seriously. It's like insane.
Publicly, openly, like all in.
Yes. It's like J-Lo was like his ex-girlfriend. and it's like now deciding she's like warning people against Trump. I'm like, well, wait a second. So how many people did she warn against Diddy?
Right.
Oh, 0. Okay.
Right.
Well, maybe we shouldn't trust her opinion.
Then there's also like people that are elites. And that's their thing. Like their thing is to do something that is horrible, and it's not available to other people. So it's like, I think there's like a sickness that people have when they have power, like extreme power, and then what else can I do? What else can I do? What else is what else is taboo? What else is forbidden? The thing is, like, we're getting the rumors from the internet, and the internet thinks that the Taliban took out that bridge in Baltimore. So it's like, who fucking knows? Who knows what's real?
That's what Diddy's lawyers, I think, said. It was like that. These are just trumped up charges. Not trumped up. I don't think they said that, but like bullshit charges.
Dude, when Homeland Security invades your house,
you got problems
with dudes with fucking guns and body armor.
Rogan's real concern wasn't about one isolated friendship. It was about how easily young talent gets pulled into powerful orbits, only to disappear or become shells of who they once were. With Leonardo, he noted how different the actor seemed after his early fame. Once open and engaging, Leo quickly became withdrawn and private. That transformation, Rogan believes, didn't happen by accident. It was the result of an environment where speaking out came with consequences. Meanwhile, Diddy's empire continued to grow unchecked. His influence stretched beyond music and into fashion, film, television, and politics. He rubbed shoulders with world leaders, dined with billionaires, and was constantly positioned as a forward-thinking mogul. But all that shine, Rogan argued, was masking a deeper problem, one that's only now beginning to crack wide open.
What's going to happen, though, you think?
Well, Diddy's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. I think he's probably going to get.
Think he's going to sing, though?
I don't know. I don't even think it matters.
But then it's just another Epstein. It's another Ghislaine Maxwell, where somebody gets indicted and nobody else indicted for trafficking kids to
right to no one.
As lawsuits mount and former associates step forward, Diddy's carefully curated image is collapsing. And with every new revelation, the question arises: who else knew? Who else helped keep the image polished while ignoring the behavior behind it? Rogan said it's impossible to believe Diddy acted alone. It takes a system to protect someone like that, and that system included celebrities, publicists, media outlets, and yes, even actors like Leonardo DiCaprio who never said a word. That silence is what Joe finds the most troubling. Why didn't Leo speak out? Why has he stayed so quiet even as others have started telling their stories? Rogan floated a theory. That silence was a strategy, a way to stay protected, a way to avoid being blacklisted. In Hollywood, staying silent can sometimes be the only way to keep working, but that choice also comes with consequences. Rogan called it a culture of silence, one where everyone sees, everyone knows, but no one says anything. It's not just Leonardo, it's dozens of stars who cross paths with Diddy and never ask questions. Some may not have understood what they were involved in. Others may have known and looked the other way, but either way, they helped maintain the illusion. As more footage surfaces and more insiders break their silence, Rogan believes we're witnessing a reckoning. The golden image Diddy built for decades is now riddled with cracks, and every person who supported him, covered for him, or benefited from his influence is being pulled into the spotlight. That includes Leonardo. As much as fans want to believe he was just an innocent bystander, the truth may not be that simple. Joe warned that this story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. The legal cases against Diddy are stacking up. Each one brings more attention, more evidence, and more pressure. Hollywood is bracing for a storm, and Rogan believes the fallout could change the way people view some of the biggest names in entertainment. He also blasted the media for protecting figures like Diddy and Leonardo for years. Entertainment reporters, late-night hosts, and talk show producers all played a role in keeping certain stories quiet. And now that the truth is coming out, those same outlets are scrambling to change the narrative. But Rogan says it's too late. The public is paying attention now, and they won't forget. Leonardo's image as a private, eco-conscious star may not survive this, not because of something he did, but because of what he didn't do. He never raised his voice. He never acknowledged the strange environments he was seen in. And in an age where silence speaks volumes, that silence is now deafening. Rogan ended his monologue by challenging others in the industry to speak up. If you were there, you owe people the truth, he said. You can't keep pretending nothing happened while the rest of the world pieces it together. It was a bold statement, but one that landed hard. Fans, critics, and insiders are all watching closely now, and every day brings new questions. Diddy may have crafted a career out of being the life of the party, but now that the music is fading, the spotlight is revealing a very different story. And those who danced alongside him may soon find themselves answering for it. Leonardo DiCaprio, once seen as untouchable, now finds his name wrapped in something far more serious than movie roles and awards. His legacy is being re-examined under a much harsher light, and the longer he stays silent, the more people start to wonder, what does he know? And why hasn't he said anything? For Rogan, the takeaway was clear. This isn't about canceling celebrities or jumping to conclusions. It's about recognizing patterns, demanding transparency, and holding people accountable, no matter how famous they are. He reminded listeners that fame doesn't equal innocence, and charm doesn't erase responsibility. So what happens next? That depends on who's willing to talk. Rogan believes we're on the edge of one of Hollywood's biggest shakeups. As investigations unfold and more names surface, the line between rumor and reality is becoming harder to deny. The question is no longer if people knew, it's why they kept it hidden. Joe Rogan's podcast lit the match. Now the fire is spreading. After Joe Rogan's takedown gained traction, the ripple effects were immediate. Online forums lit up with threads dissecting old footage, obscure interviews, and red carpet photos that fans had never questioned until now. But once Rogan highlighted the strange overlaps between Diddy and Leonardo DiCaprio, it was like the internet collectively woke up. Suddenly, moments that once felt harmless looked completely different in hindsight. People weren't just asking about Diddy's behavior. They were asking why Leonardo was always around but never said a word. People began revisiting the earliest years of Leonardo's fame, especially during the time he was still in his teens and early 20s. Paparazzi shots showed him leaving nightclubs and elite parties, often looking uncomfortable or exhausted. While that might have once been dismissed as the toll of celebrity, Rogan's breakdown reframed it. What if that wasn't just fame fatigue? What if Leonardo was navigating something far more complex behind the scenes? And why were those parties always tied back to the same group of powerful individuals, Diddy among them? It wasn't long before timelines began to be built. Fan-made spreadsheets cross-referencing Leo's career milestones with major Diddy-hosted events. The patterns were undeniable. Big premieres, award shows, music industry galas. Leonardo was always nearby when Diddy was throwing an event. And what made this all the more unsettling was the repetition of the same storylines with other rising stars. Rogan was right. Diddy didn't just hang out with musicians. He was everywhere young, fresh talent appeared. One theory circulating online, one Rogan hinted at but didn't confirm, was that Diddy functioned like a connector in the industry. People didn't just want fame, they wanted access. And Diddy had it. He knew the decision makers, the executives, the hidden power brokers. So if a young actor or musician was suddenly getting invited to top-tier events, people just assumed Diddy had a hand in it. But as more people come forward now, what once looked like a favor now looks like control. Leonardo's case feels especially complicated. For decades, he's been seen as a private figure who rarely gives interviews, avoids political drama, and only speaks publicly about causes like climate change. But now fans are questioning if that privacy was a protective shield, not just from the media, but from having to answer difficult questions. Rogan suggested that Leonardo's silence may not have been passive, it may have been part of an unspoken deal to stay out of trouble, to stay in favor, and to avoid being blacklisted like others who spoke out too soon. And then there's the fact that Leonardo has never distanced himself from Diddy. Even as allegations and lawsuits swirl, even as public opinion turns against the music mogul, there hasn't been a single public statement. No condemnation, no clarification, just silence. That silence is starting to speak louder than words. Rogan expanded on this idea in a follow-up episode, warning that the biggest threat to Hollywood's corrupt structure isn't a court ruling, it's exposure. When people see the connections for themselves, when they understand how the same names keep popping up in every controversy, that's when public trust finally breaks. He used Leonardo and Diddy as the clearest example. One's legacy as a world-famous actor, the other's as a hip-hop mogul. But together they represent something more troubling. A legacy built not just on talent, but on the silence of those who knew better. More names have started to surface as the fallout continues. Fans pointed to other celebrities who were part of Leonardo's early circle. Actors, models, musicians, all of whom also crossed paths with Diddy at one point or another. The web keeps growing, and Rogan believes that web was never an accident. It was constructed carefully, with influence, favors, and unspoken rules. Step out of line and you disappear from the spotlight. Stay in line and you keep winning awards and topping the charts. Rogan even mentioned how Hollywood seems to repeat the same script over and over. A young celebrity breaks out, is suddenly everywhere, and then vanishes for a while before returning with a completely different public image. He said Leonardo followed that script perfectly. Too perfectly. That kind of pattern doesn't happen by chance. It happens when people are managed behind the scenes, told when to speak, when to hide, and who to avoid. He didn't stop there. Rogan called out Hollywood agencies for being part of the problem. These are the people who sign the deals, arrange the appearances, and decide who gets invited to what. And yet, somehow, the same powerful figures show up at every major scandal. Never questioned, never held accountable. Diddy was at the center of this for decades, and Leonardo, knowingly or not, helped keep the machine running by playing along and never pulling the curtain back. As the heat turns up, public opinion is shifting fast. There's a growing belief that Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just a passive bystander. He was close enough for long enough to know more than he's letting on. And with Diddy's empire under investigation, silence from any of his high-profile connections is starting to feel like complicity. Rogan's commentary has given others the courage to speak up. Former industry assistants, stylists, and event staff have started to anonymously share what they saw behind the scenes. Many say the energy at Diddy's parties was unlike anything they'd experienced. Tight security, VIP-only sections, and a strict code of silence. One person described the atmosphere as intentionally intimidating. Another said it was like being on another planet where the rules didn't apply. And in the middle of it all, Leonardo DiCaprio was often present, not always leading the charge, but always nearby, always part of the inner circle. That's what makes this story so powerful. It's not about a single mistake. It's about being part of a long-standing ecosystem built on control, power, and silence. As more lawsuits unfold and more testimonies become public, people are beginning to ask the most uncomfortable questions. Why was Diddy given so much freedom for so long? And why did so many of his celebrity friends, Leonardo included, never say a word? Rogan says the industry is addicted to protecting its biggest players. It's built on illusion. Image is everything. So when a figure like Diddy starts to fall, everyone around him gets nervous, because if one name goes down, others might be dragged with it. That's why the silence is so loud. That's why Leonardo's avoidance of the topic feels deliberate. The truth is, the walls are closing in. Diddy's public relations strategies are failing. The old excuses aren't working anymore, and Leonardo's carefully crafted persona is starting to crack under the weight of public suspicion. People are connecting dots faster than ever before. What used to be speculation is now being backed up by timelines, photos, and first-hand accounts. Joe Rogan believes this is a moment of reckoning. not just for Diddy or Leonardo, but for the entire entertainment industry. For too long, people have hidden behind fame using their status to deflect real accountability. But now with every podcast, every leaked document, and every new witness, the truth is getting harder to deny. The next phase, Rogan says, is transparency. If Leonardo truly has nothing to hide, now is the time to speak up, because as long as he stays silent, he risks being remembered not just as a talented actor, but as someone who stood by while the truth stayed buried. Diddy's story has become a cautionary tale, and if Leonardo DiCaprio continues down the same path of silence, he may soon find himself written into the same chapter.